there's a lot of trends in terms of behavior that stem from gaming. A very straightforward one is the need for interaction when we talk about younger audiences. Putting them in front of a TV and having them watch a movie for 2 hours and sit still just doesn't happen anymore. So again, how do brands adapt their marketing strategies to that?
Welcome to a new episode of XR and AI Spotlight, the show where we give the stage to creative technologists, entrepreneurs and innovators at the intersection between XR and AI. My name is Gabriele Romagnoli and I'm your host. Today I'm here with Franz Jacobs. Franz focuses on helping companies navigate the shift in brand building. As part of MediaMonk's global innovation team, he is actively working to connect Fortune 500 brands with fast-growing trends in tech. MediaMonk has been named as AI Agency of the Year by Adweek for demonstrating, and I quote here, exceptional talent, creativity, and ingenuity in the application of generative AI in both operations and client work. Stay cast with us to learn how brands can use AI now to transform their businesses, the way brands can gamify their experiences to engage and interact with young audiences.
I find awesome is how Nike is developing its .swoosh platform.
How brands are reacting to tech hype and the core difference between XR and AI.
For us, it started when Facebook changed the name to Meta. Now, as innovation director, indeed, my conversations are 85% AI. You definitely see a different approach when it comes to brands. It goes more fundamental, quicker.
But before we get into it, I want to thank our sponsor Cognitive 3D who made this episode possible. Cognitive 3D is a spatial analytic platform to improve how organizations can analyze user behavior in VR and AR and turn the findings into actionable insights. Cognitive 3D has a handy SDK that integrates easily in Unity and Unreal. Data are collected and displayed in 3D contextually to help you improve user engagement and retention. Whether you are designing training and simulation, running consumer research, or creating games and entertainment content, Cognitive 3D will change the way you track and learn from your data. Head to cognitive3d.com to learn more. And now, let's roll the title and welcome Franz on stage. What do you think is the most ambitious AI project you were involved in at MediaMonk and why?
Adweek didn't call us AI agency for the year of the year for a reason. There's been a lot happening. There's been very big projects that have to do with more back end of companies, so content at scale, workflow implementation, consultancy, stuff like that, which is exciting because it can transform a whole business and brand, but also other exciting work on the front end where we, for example, work with BMW and Tomorrowland, the big electronic music festival, where we use generative AI to make it possible for every visitor of the festival to make their own personal soundtrack to the event, including generated voices and lyrics, generated covers, and you can immediately share it, of course, on social media, your personal soundtrack to Tomorrowland.
Okay, so let's do this. Let's backtrack a second, because indeed there was a lot. I didn't even expect that much. So, and maybe let's take this in two, right? You mentioned about back end and front end, right?
Yes.
Let's maybe approach those two first. Yeah. And how about backend? What are some of the applications in which you have seen AI making a difference and potentially transforming a business?
Yeah. So what I mean by backend and front end is not in the most basic technical terms of backend developing and front end developing. It's more about, okay, in the backend, how can we use AI to optimize workflows, to optimize our content machines, to optimize our creation of assets, SEO, copywriting, all that stuff that happens in the back of a company in order to do better work for consumers. And then on the front end,
but it is not necessarily evident to the consumer yet. right? So
No, like the outcome will, be seen by consumers, or even not. Indeed, if we talk about processes and internal toolings and stuff like that. But then when we move to the front end, it's really okay. How can we use generative tools to build new experiences for people and take consumer relationship to a deeper level and stuff like that? So that's how I kind of separate the two in terms of
absolutely.
conversations at the moment.
So, and indeed, if we dive a little bit into that backend side, right, or something that, again, it's not about developing or coding the backend, but it's something that happens necessarily maybe less visible, right, that
Yeah.
happens. Can you give us some example?
Yeah, I mean, a pretty straightforward example is copywriting. Copywriting has been a big part of every brand in terms of SEO, in terms of e-commerce descriptions and so forth, newsletters, social media captions, you name it. There's a lot of copywriting involved, and we are building and utilizing a lot of tools to make that a lot more efficient and therefore more effective. Right. One of the things, of course, is translation. How can we translate our content and copywriting to, almost every language in the world, or at least to our most important markets, so that we can speak in a native language as a brand to our core consumers? How can we optimize SEO in a more automatic way? Same goes for descriptions of Amazon e-commerce pages, for example. All of that, like how we utilize a lot of internal data. And with that, we can come up with better performing copywriting for a lot of these tasks in a very efficient way.
So, and when you start implementing this kind of processes or changes within a company, how do you see the people internally adopting and adopting to this tool, to this new way of working using AI? What's the response?
I mean, it differs, right? I mean, we have to keep it honest. Like when we talk about AI, there's also a lot of fear. And we always try to approach it from the most positive side and show that you can do things with AI that you couldn't do before. So it's not, again, only taking over jobs that you normally did. It is, giving you possibilities to do even more than you ever dreamed of, right? AI in general, it's kind of finally, like when we all started doing digital marketing, we all thought about, okay, we can now create assets like, we have an ad for every moment, for the right person, for the right time, for the right place, and show the right person the exact right ad. And that in practical terms, that never really happened. But now with AI, we kind of can, right? We can make 50,000 versions of a piece of content if we want to. So again, we show that we can do stuff that we never dreamed of doing before. We show that we can take away work that you don't want to do, for example, as a copywriter, and only focus on your main task or your creativity. But yeah, so it very differs. There's some people that are very excited about it. There's other people that are a little bit more wary about it. And that's totally normal, of course.
Right. So, and I'm still interesting about this part of the copywriting. You mentioned something that I didn't think about: creating different variants of the same ad based on a location, person, product. How does that work? Can you give us some example of the impact that it can have?
Yeah, like we said, I mean, in the end, when we talk about advertising or digital advertising, it's all about conversion rates, right? And now with AI, like normally, for example, you have a picture of your product with a certain text on top of it in order to instigate people to go to your e-commerce store or to find out more about the product. And you do that in the language, probably of English, because it's the most common language out there. And you don't have the manpower or budget to do it then also in Dutch or in German or in French and in Italian and in Spanish, which kind of hurts conversion rates, right? We all kind of know that, yes, if we would have had that, it's probably better, because there are some people that might not be as triggered by English or don't speak the language at all. So we lose those people, we lose that attention. Now with AI, yes, we can do translation and adapt one piece of content into all these different languages, and therefore upticking your conversion rates, which is of course very exciting.
Cool. So this was something that we defined originally as backend, and then you mentioned something that happens instead in a front end, where people at a concert can actually recreate their own playlist and publish it online. Uh, how does that work instead?
Yeah, I mean, it's actually a soundtrack, so it's your own
A
record.
soundtrack.
Basically, it's your own track, and so we developed a web platform where you can go on as a user and select the things that you enjoyed. Give the tool some words that represent your experience that you had at the festival. You can pick for who are you attributing this song to, like who's this song for. And it uses all of those elements and all of the input that you gave it and turn it into a unique song that's just for you. And like I said, it also then generates a cover. So there's you have some artwork with it as
Why not?
well. Exactly. Yeah, like we can do it all, right? And yeah, that was a pretty awesome. It is made possible by BMW and in collaboration with Tomorrowland, like I said, and that's one of those things, right? We're building experiences that were never ever possible before, thanks to AI, and I think that's very exciting.
It is. I mean, and the possibility are so much. One question is, I wanted to talk a little bit about you and what do you think your background in esports and gaming plays in this new way of gamifying brands?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that's another big trend that I'm indeed very involved in is how the impact of gaming and gaming culture on society, and therefore how can brands, well, the importance of brands understanding this and therefore adapting their communication and the way they operate to this. If you look at it bottom line, there's a lot of trends in terms of behavior that stem from gaming. A very straightforward one is the need for interaction when we talk about younger audiences. So when we talk about Gen Z and younger, putting them in front of a TV and having them watch a movie for 2 hours and sit still just doesn't happen anymore. And why is that? They get bored super quick. And again, why is that? Because there's no interaction, right? They're used to playing Roblox and they're used to playing Fortnite. And there, something happens every other minute or so, which keeps them
Even less,
engaged. And
I would say.
exactly. And they keep one, it's interactive, so it keeps them engaged, but also there's room for creativity, there's room for exploration, like they can have input, all of these things. And then moving back to a TV commercial or a movie or a TV show, and which doesn't have all these elements, that stuff becomes very boring. So again, how do brands, if they know that, how do brands adapt their marketing strategies to that? So yeah, I think there's a lot to learn from gaming and the success of games like Fortnite and Roblox that brands should have a serious look at.
So I think that there are many different ways of implementing gamification in a brand, especially with younger audience. And people are aware of example like Roblox. Are there others that you are aware of that maybe don't go that far as building a virtual world, but that engages younger audience in other meaningful or interactive ways?
Yeah, I mean, there's several ways to do that, right? It's indeed one is indeed going directly into games and building awesome experiences in those games, adding to the experience that they already have when they play their favorite games. There are other ones that we do a lot of projects where we work with creators and we do virtual events through Twitch, where the brand has a message to share. We come up with an idea that's very native to Twitch as a platform and to the creators that we're working with, and just put on an awesome show, which is basically developing a TV show like back in the day, but then on Twitch with new people and interaction and all of these elements that make it interesting for viewers. But another one that I find awesome is how Nike is developing its .swoosh platform, which for the people that don't know, .swoosh is a platform launched by Nike where it really focuses on digital fashion. So digital versions of Nike products. They have a collaboration with Epic Games and therefore Fortnite. They have a collaboration with EA Sports and therefore FIFA, the game, or EAFC, apologies. And but also in that they also open up the gates to creativity and to creators, because they put together a contest where they said, hey, to all you designers out there, you can create your own, design your own shoe, and the winners will be selected, and we will actually share profits of, when we make the physical shoe, we will share the profits with the people that actually designed it, right? So that's very different than contests like, oh, look at your shoe is being made and we keep
Hmm.
all the profits, versus now, like, this new audience wants to be a part of it, right? And they acknowledge that, and now work together with these creators to do awesome new things. So that's a lot of different ways how a lot of brands are looking at this space, and some do better than others. But again, I don't think there's any brand out there that shouldn't have a gaming strategy, if you ask me.
I just wanted to have a quick break to remind you that the recording of these episodes and many more great conversation with incredible experts are available on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. Just head over to my profile or the episode description, open up the link in bio, and pick your platform of choice. And now, let's get back to the show. Look, this was absolutely very valuable because indeed we hear very often just about the spectrum. Okay, you put people in a virtual world, but there are other ways to gamify a brand or foster engagements, right? In this
Yeah.
way, like creating or engaging or interacting. Now, if we move back to that, let's say technology topic, right? When especially a technology like AI is moving so fast, do you ever feel as a professional that you have a knowledge gap or you cannot keep up with that? How do you behave given that you should always be cutting edge? You should always be at the forefront.
Yeah. I mean, for me personally, like, also, I'm very honest. I don't know everything, right? I do know a lot, and I found it's super interesting everything that's happening, and it's very natural to me to stay on top of all these things. But there's also some, answers that I don't have, and when I speak to, for example, brands, then sometimes I have to say like, hey, we like I don't know yet, and we don't know yet. Like, it's not, this stuff happens so fast. We might know in a couple of months, but not yet, right? So yeah, I mean, from a personal sense, I've been very fortunate that I've been doing a lot of public speaking, and I've been invited to a lot of awesome podcasts like yourself, and it's some sort of imposter syndrome, thinking like, but I'm just, I'm not really an expert. I don't work at OpenAI or Google, or like, one of these companies that is building all of this tech. But yeah, I mean, I'm just an enthusiast who loves this stuff, and
Yeah,
I
but even
just
then,
want to,
right?
yeah,
Even if you would work at OpenAI, I think that to some extent you will be focused so much on your own thing that then to be able to make that accelerated growth happen, that maybe you forget other things that are maybe in the field of audio or a
yeah,
video or again other models. So
true,
I think that is still it's going to be very hard to be expert. I think it's going to
yeah.
be very hard to be expert.
Well, like I said, that's why I call myself an enthusiast, right, and not an expert.
Absolutely.
And how I like to see my role is, I'm more of a translator between the actual deep tech and the technical people, and the brand world and business world, so to say, and how, what type of response audiences have, and therefore changing behavior because of this technology, right? So yes,
Yeah.
I'm not a deep technical person myself. I'm more focused on, again, the results of the tech on business and audiences.
And this brings me to a very important point because as creative as technologists, we are prone to fear of missing out, right? From this FOMO. Uh, Similarly, are the brands. So they come and there is this new thing, and they see it shiny, and they want to have it. They don't know how. And we have seen several of these technologies still here. There is XR, there is Web3, there is crypto, now there is AI. I was curious, how do brand behave with this different technology? Do you see a differences in how they approach it, in a way they understand it? How does that
Yeah.
work?
A good question. I mean, there's definitely a difference. I've been working at MediaMonks for about 2 years now, and I just started before the original metaverse and Web3 boom. or hype that happened. And we indeed saw a quick influx of, for us, it started when Facebook changed the name to Meta. Then all of the brands were like, holy hell, like what's going on? Like, what is this? Like, well, should we know about it? And I mean, they all thought, I guess it's important enough, right? Because Facebook just changed the name to Meta. So we had that whole thing happen. And then moving forward to now, it's all about AI, right? So as innovation director, like indeed my conversations are 85% AI. I think the big difference between the two is, first of all, I mean, all tech goes through the traditional hype cycle, right? It's a big explosion of hype. It comes back down, and all the stuff gets cleaned out. The BS gets cleaned out, and then slowly and surely we go back up again. So we are still strong believers when it comes to virtualization with mixed reality. And I think the word the metaverse is like surfing on the World Wide Web, and all these words that we never used before, or we never use again. We just call it being online or whatever. So we still think that's very relevant. And but now with AI, you definitely see a different approach when it comes to brands. It goes more fundamental quicker, as in, I think all brands have understood this year that AI is absolutely massive. It's here to stay. It's the next revolution, and they have to jump on this. But before they do, and that's why I think a lot of brands still took their time, because they need to put in place their frameworks and their legal legal frameworks, their ethical frameworks, privacy, like all of these matters. They have to figure out first before they can start executing on AI at scale. But knowing that all of these brands are doing this, again, it's a very different approach versus the year before, the 2 years before, because then our conversations were more with marketing people, right? Like, hey, we want to jump on the hype, like do some awesome stuff, like get more eyeballs on our brands. And now we're talking to CTOs and COOs and CMOs about, okay, how can we transform your organization using AI, right? So there's like conversations that are much higher level or a much deeper level, however you want to look at it. So yeah, the approach has been different for sure.
And so when there is a CTO, a CMO, a CEO approaching with a question, how does the conversation start and moves forward? So how can brand really start this journey, and what's the most effective way that you have seen as an agency to help them?
I mean, 9 out of 10 times we start with a pilot project, and a pilot project can be very small, and that's good because you can move quickly and fast. You put a nimble team together from both our end as from their end, and you just get into the weeds, right? You get your hands dirty and start experimenting with the technology. And why that's so interesting also from a brand's perspective, because then they can take this little project and the results of that, which then speak for itself, right? In terms of, cost savings or time savings or efficiencies, whatever. They can take the results and then go to the wider company and say, okay, look, it's actually as good as we think it is, and we can make this happen. We can do stuff with it, and that unlocks then bigger projects. But also, you always need some project to go first, because then again, legal has time to adapt to it. They need a first test run to see how to implement this and what they need to change internally. Like all of these matters. And once you have done that successfully, then we can expand from there.
So, and I think that this is true for many technologies, and finding very often that pilot project that both is let's say can be showcased internally as proof of value, right?
Yeah.
And at the same time, that is small enough that can be accomplished, it's sometimes tricky. So how do you find the right project for a pilot? Maybe just the question, how do you find the right project for a pilot? How do you work with the teams to make that happen?
Most of the time we start by looking at their current production pipeline, for example, content pipeline, and see where the biggest pain points are. We identify pain points, and then we go in ranking, like, hey, this pain point has been here for 5 years and it's stressing you out for so long already. We identify what's the most important one, and we build a solution for that, because then we can again, we solve a massive pain point for a company in a relatively short and efficient time frame and budget. And if we have that little thing, that we can, again, like, we can do even more if we go deeper into the weeds, right?
And so you identify these projects. Now, how does that work internally? So maybe like you as a team, how do you get to work on it? What are the figures involved, from strategy, from product, from creatives? And how do you use AI maybe internally as well to run those projects? Because those are two core differences. One is you can work on a project to implement AI, but you can also use AI as part of your design and creative project. So
Yeah.
you've got this brief, we identified the pilot project that is ideal, then what happened next?
Yeah, I mean, we assemble an awesome team on our end that most of the times involves a lot of technologists or creative technologists, innovation directors, strategists, and people who can actually build whatever we come up with, right? So that's on that end, and then we just we attack the challenge, and it is literally like, we don't have things off the shelf, right? I think we are in a phase, and especially next year, when I think all brands understand that, yes, these general tools are awesome, but we need custom solutions for specific challenges that we have as a company. And that means we also don't have like off the shelf products that we just say, hey, here you go. They always need to be adapted to whatever the use case is or whatever the client is about. So then we just figure it out, basically, together with them. And sometimes that indeed means building something from scratch. Sometimes that means implementing something we already have done before, but editing changing it to whatever is relevant for the brand that we work with. And then the other hand, like how we utilize AI internally. I mean, especially, of course, Media Monks is 9,000 people big. We do all kinds of things. We have a massive studio team, which involves content creation, which involves film and photography and all of these things. And we're pushing AI tools and use of it internally as well. And that goes very well, as Adweek said, because there's just enormous excitement within our teams, again, to do things that weren't possible before. I mean, you can imagine that being in a creative, for example, in a films team, that you want to do something awesome, but hey, the client doesn't have the budget, then you were stuck with your idea and you couldn't make that happen, right? So now there's AI tools, and they can experiment and do bigger stuff, and again, do stuff that they never have ever dreamed of doing for a particular client, which makes them very excited, right? So that's on the other hand. We have our chat GPT, we call it Monk GPT, of course, to keep it private in our own servers. But that's immensely helping our strategists and our account teams and sales teams to just do better work and more efficient work. And again, taking work out of your hands that you don't want to do if you are, for example, in sales or in account. So again, it's a lot of excitement within Media Monks.
And was there some examples where you felt, wow, this is really next level, I didn't expect AI to give this to me, like from a personal perspective, when using it or when being involved in a project, when it basically outperformed?
I mean, it happens almost weekly, right? So it's like, then there's something new that's like, holy hell, like, oh, I just, when was it, over the weekend? There was, I forgot the name, but the text to voice in an instant. We're talking 150 milliseconds for an AI to speak back in a response. I saw the video and I was, wow, like, the impact that's going to have on customer service and sales representatives, etc. That's going to be massive, which is on the other hand also challenging and scary at the same time, right? But again, like, this stuff happens so fast. The other thing that I was really amazed by was when Runway did their award show, and they called a video, they selected a video as video of the year or the month. I'm not exactly sure what it was, but then you look at the video, which was completely reproduced with Runway. It's fascinating. And again, it's not It's not there yet that you'll see full-blown Hollywood movies in cinemas like generated by AI, but you can see it going there for sure.
Yes, sometimes I also wonder, like very often people think AI as like an acceleration for the professional. I also like to think about AI as an enabler for the non-professional.
Yeah,
So for everybody that at that point could create a movie, maybe it's not a Hollywood movie, right? But it can still then create a movie of its own and then become a creator, become a professional in a way.
yeah, yeah.
So I think that there are many different layers to this and to empowering creatives and creators with this technology.
Yeah, no, I fully agree. I mean, I often talk about it's democratizing creativity, right? Like you don't need to have the skills of or Photoshop or After Effects or whatever. You just need your ideas and your openness to use these tools, and it's literally as easy as typing something in, and it will become even more easier in the future. So yeah, it's an exciting time for creatives, I think.
So, Fans, how do you see these moving forward? So now MediaMonk got on every newspaper, AI agency of the year. I suppose there is more inflow that you might be able to handle. That's my guess, but maybe not. Uh, but how do you see you moving forward, or how is the strategy for MediaMonk?
Yeah, I mean, we just keep on pushing. Basically, this is not a battle that's won in the next 6 months. It's probably the biggest shift we've seen in creative agency world since the internet, or maybe even bigger. And we want to come up on top, right? Like we want to make sure that we utilize AI to make a next step in the evolvement of our company. And that again, that keeps in order to make that happen, we have to keep on pushing both internally and externally. Like I said, we're actively upskilling our own people, making sure that they use the AI tools for the best way possible, and also on the other hand, like evolving ourselves and our business model as an agency towards brands. We already see that we are developing and turning more into a tech partner next to only just a creative partner, because we have the abilities to implement these tools and to build these workflows for brands. So I think it's a very exciting time for to be Media Monks.
Fons, I really wanted to thank you for this insight and conversation, and really unpacking some of the ways brands can really leverage this technology and how you have been helping them towards this journey. So, Fons, thank you very much for this conversation.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you really much for listening in. And remember to head to YouTube, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts and check out more insightful conversation revolving around XR and AI. And if you really like the show, please leave a review on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, or a thumbs up on YouTube. It really helps me keep doing this and shine the spotlight on the latest and greatest advancement in XR and AI. Till next time.